We were dispatched to 47 Greystone Street. A group of house painters had vanished 3 days earlier before finishing their job. No phone signals. No one answered the door. The house stood still, almost like it had been waiting for us. I was with 3 other officers, Lang, Ruiz, and Myers. The ground floor was unnervingly quiet. The paint cans were open, the brushes still wet, but not a soul in sight. The lights were on. The clock was ticking. Ruiz said he heard footsteps upstairs. We split up to investigate. The air felt heavy, as if time itself was being pulled back. The house felt empty, cavernous in its silence. The air seemed too still, stale in a way that pressed against the skin. Every footstep echoed, as if the walls themselves were listening. The team moved methodically, each of us accustomed to the rhythm of an investigation. But that night, something was off. Even the familiar rituals, checking corners, calling out each other's names, couldn't dispel the feeling that we were being watched. I followed Lang up the stairs, the wood creaking beneath our boots. The master bedroom loomed at the end of the hallway, the door slightly ajar. As soon as we stepped inside, the door eased shut behind us with a barely audible click. I turned, half expecting to see someone there, but the landing was empty. No wind, no draft, nothing to explain the movement, just a hush that settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Lang's voice was barely a whisper. "Do you hear that?" For a moment, I strained to listen. At first, I heard nothing, just the usual white noise of an old house. Then, faint and deliberate, a tapping began. It was too rhythmic to be random, too precise to be just the house settling, like fingernails, slow and insistent, dragging across drywall. 3 distinct knocks, each spaced evenly apart, reverberated through the room. We both stared at the closet. The room was empty, devoid of furniture, the bed stripped, the windows sealed tight. But then, on the wall, I noticed the marks, a series of smudged, greasy handprints, impossibly high, leading from the edge of the closet door and climbing, illogically, straight up to the ceiling. The prints faded as they rose, vanishing into the shadows above our heads. Before either of us could say a word, a voice echoed from downstairs. Ruiz's voice, sharp with alarm. "Myers is gone!" The words hung in the air, heavy with disbelief. We dashed down the stairs, boots thumping, hearts hammering in our chests. Myers had been right there, just moments before, standing by the front door, the radio in his hand. Now there was nothing. No sign of struggle, no displaced furniture, no open door or broken glass. His radio still lay on the side table, the green light blinking, a low hiss of static filling the silence. The device was still transmitting, but Myers was gone. We exchanged glances, each of us searching the others for answers. No one had seen him leave. No one had heard a thing. For a moment we stood frozen, the only sound the faint, persistent hiss from the radio. Then, from below, a soft whine rose up, a wavering, high-pitched sound, almost mechanical, coming from the darkness of the basement. None of us wanted to go down there. We didn't need to say it out loud. The tension in the air was enough. Lang took a step back, his face pale, hand hovering near his sidearm. Ruiz clicked on his flashlight, the beam trembling as it cut through the gloom. I checked my body cam, hoping to find some explanation, some reassurance in the familiar flicker of the recording. But the screen was glitching, images warping and stuttering, lines of static crawling across the display. Then, abruptly, a voice crackled through the static, low and distorted, as though coming from a great distance. "Don't go down. They're waiting." The words stopped us cold. The voice wasn't Myers's, but there was something familiar in its cadence, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We didn't need to make a plan. Instinct took over. We left, fast, not daring to look back. The urge to run was overwhelming, but we kept to a hurried walk, afraid that breaking into a sprint would somehow make it worse, would somehow draw the attention of whatever was lurking in the shadows. Outside, the air felt colder, sharper. The lights from our vehicles shone like beacons, and we clustered together, counting heads. Myers was still missing. The radio in my hand continued to sputter with static, the warning replaying in my mind. "Don't go down, they're waiting." When the adrenaline faded, we tried to make sense of what had happened. We combed through our notes, retraced our steps, argued over what we'd seen and heard. But the house remained silent, indifferent to our confusion. Later, alone in my apartment, I connected the body cam to my computer, determined to find some rational explanation. The footage flickered to life, the image warped and grainy. I watched as Lang and I moved through the bedroom, as we followed the handprints up the wall. I watched as we hurried down the stairs, as Ruiz called out. I watched as we gathered near the front door. Panic mounting. And then, as we turned to leave, I saw it. At the very end of the hallway, shrouded in shadow, a figure stood motionless. Tall, indistinct, its features lost in the darkness. It didn't move, didn't follow, just watched. None of us had seen it at the time. Our eyes had slid past that patch of darkness, our minds refusing to register its presence. I replayed the footage. Frame by frame, the figure remained, unchanging, a silent witness to our fear. There was no logical explanation, no trick of the light or glitch in the camera. It was simply there, as if it had always been there, as if it had been waiting. The next day, I called Lang and Ruiz. I played them the footage, watched as their faces paled, as they recognized the figure at the end of the hall. We compared notes, tried to piece together what we had missed. None of us could remember seeing it in person, though the camera had captured it clearly. We reached out to Myers's family, to the department, to anyone who might help us make sense of it. Search teams combed the house and the surrounding area, but there was no sign of him. His disappearance was logged as unsolved, his name added to the growing list of missing. The house became a story, a cautionary tale whispered among the ranks. No one wanted to go back. The house was sealed off. It was boarded up. The windows shuttered, the yard overgrown. But neighbors say they still hear knocking every night. As for the painters, not a single one turned up. We didn't file a full report, just a private entry. In the internal case log, access code, Vault 314. Since that day, I've stopped believing that houses are just bricks and mortar.